Okay, joining us to discuss this is Taylor Hathorn, visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Center for American Safety and Security. So, Taylor, I just want to start off. You've got brothers in the U.S. military. What does this mean to you, and why is it important for the president to offer gestures like this, like praise as well as honoring these soldiers who contributed so much?
From a personal standpoint, I think it's great. I think that it really does a lot for military personnel morale to have a president and an administration who not only stands by them publicly and stands behind them publicly, but makes sure that what we're doing in terms of policy is supportive of our military personnel. I actually had an article that I wrote for The Hill in May of 2025 that outlined how bad our recruitment numbers were prior to this administration. So during the Biden administration, a lot of people don't know this, but in 2024, we had the lowest incoming numbers of recruitment for our United States military personnel than any time since before World War II. So things were looking really, really bleak about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and now we are not in the same situation. Our numbers are on the rise. Military personnel feel supported, and I think things like this, gestures like this from the president and the first lady, do a lot in making sure that military members feel like they are appreciated for the work that they do.
Okay, so you're saying the gestures like this make a difference. I'm wondering if there's any other you can point to, any other differences that you can point to that has resulted recruitment numbers under the Trump administration compared to previous administrations.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look at a lot of the announcements that have happened. Secretary Cal coming out and saying that, the military personnel who were fired unjustly because of the COVID mandates would be reinstated with full and back pay. I mean, things like this, they might not affect all military personnel, but I think they affect enough people that it shows that the administration is really standing behind them and putting their money where their mouth is. We've got a military pay increase coming down the pike. That's huge. We've got military personnel who are being supported and who are no longer being treated like less than by their Secretary of War. And I think that that's huge.
Okay, so I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on that. I want to move on to another topic, and that's the deadline for the funding for the Department of Homeland Security. And as you know, Taylor, DHS funds FEMA, TSA, the Secret Service, the Coast Guard. And by the way, the Coast Guard helps to keep rivers open so critical food and energy can go to cities like New York. So your thoughts on whether Republicans, should they meet some of the Democrats' demands to keep DHS open?
Absolutely not. The demands that the Democrats have are preposterous. They're asking for ICE agents who to not wear masks. So I want you to really think about that. That seems like a very reasonable request, right? Like, don't have masked federal agents arresting people. But the people who are calling for this are in support of them being doxxed. These people whose families and whose addresses have been put at risk because of far left-wing activists who don't like what ICE is doing, but meanwhile had nothing to say about this during the President Obama years when he was actually coined by the media as deporter-in-chief. He deported over 3.1 people during ICE deportations, and no one said anything. If you go back and you look at the articles that were written about it during the time, it was talked about how this was a very important national security issue, how we needed to make sure that our borders were secured so that Americans could prosper, so that we didn't bring terrorism to our homeland. And now you have far left-wing activists and members of our Congress stating that these people need to put their lives at risk when they are simply doing their job. Another thing that they're wanting to, another red line that they have in the sand for the Democrats is making sure that we get rid of the warrant process, that the warrants need to be instituted by a judge. How many times in this country over the last decades have we seen that our judicial system is weaponized to make political gains? And I just don't think that that's something that is fair to the ICE agents. I don't think that it's fair to American citizens, especially American citizens like Laken Riley, who were murdered by immigrants in this country, or an immigrant in this country who should not have been here in the first place.
Now, those are good points. What do you say to the voices on the left who say Congress should not fund DHS without meaningful changes?
Well, I think our lawmakers know that not funding DHS during this go-around is not going to do anything to prevent ICE from carrying out their duties. ICE is still going to be funded through the big, beautiful bill. Over 90% of ICE, 90 or 93%, I can't remember the exact number, but the ICE agents and CBP agents will still receive their paychecks and still have their mandates to do their jobs. The Democratic lawmakers on the left know this, and they are just trying to scare Americans. They're trying to make Americans feel like they are standing up for their values and their principles. And real Americans, people who look into these issues, understand that that is not what is happening here. I mean, ICE is going to be funded anyway, so this is just them placating to the loudest voices in their party.
Okay, another topic I wanted to cover today, Taylor. Iran has just been named the vice chair of the United Commissions for Social Development. So this is a commission that's supposed to promote social justice and women's rights. And Iran is now part of that, despite its record of violently clamping down on protesters. We've seen that, and severely restricting women's rights. I mean, the irony speaks for itself. Give us your thoughts.
You know, I'm embarrassed for the United Nations. I've said that on this program several times. You know, anytime that I want to advocate for something good that they're doing, then you have the United Secretary General Guterres come out and congratulate Iran on the anniversary of their 1979 revolution. And for those of you who understand what that means, is this is the regime that is currently inflicting thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of deaths, and killing their own people, killing men, women, and children in the streets. This is the same regime that was just congratulated by the UN Secretary General. And then you're going to put them on a committee like that. It is a slap in the face for the world community at large, and it really shows how embarrassing and feckless the United Nations is. I'm ashamed of what they're doing. I'm ashamed of the work that they do, and President Trump and this administration were right to pull us out of over 31 different subcommittees like this, 31 different subcommittees that were doing absolutely nothing, in fact, harming men, women, and children around the world who are living under the rule of oppressive regimes, and that is something that people on the left should be talking about just as much. This is embarrassing for the United Nations, and it would be embarrassing for the United States if we had not done what we did to stand up for what was true and just and good.
And I think UN ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, really echoed what you said just now. He said in a quote, "Yet another reason why we're not a member of, nor do we participate in this ridiculous Commission for Social Development." Just final thoughts on this, Taylor.
I think the president and the administration should be doing more. I think that we should be putting the United Nations on notice that if they don't start affecting actual change that benefits the people who they were founded to protect and make sure that they were protected from tyrannical regimes, if we don't start doing that and we don't put, our foot on the United Nations neck to let them know that we're watching, that China and Russia have absolutely no place on the Security Council. And I know that we're doing great work with Saudi Arabia, but they should not be co-chairing the Women's Rights Council. We really need to start calling them out. This is not about disenfranchising ourselves from the world community and becoming isolationists as the United States of America. This is about looking at what our tax dollars as United States citizens are funding and really taking a hard look at that and assessing, should we be putting our money here, or should we be investing it in things like the President's Board of Peace initiative that he started to see if we can actually affect change in these communities around the world. I've said this before. I'm going to hold my breath. I'm holding out hope that the Board of Peace affects actual change, but I mean, it's certainly going to do more than the United Nations at this point. If nothing else, at least it won't be committing and perpetuating the harm that the UN is doing.
And I just want to add that China shouldn't be on the Human Rights Council either, given its, its terrible record. I mean, that's, even using the word terrible is an understatement. Okay, Taylor, thank you so much.
Actual enslavement, yes.
Exactly. Very right. Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Taylor.
Thanks, Don.